Aaron Rodgers went down on the first drive as a New York Jet and was carted off, and they ruled him out after about a couple minutes. And then it has been determined that he has a torn Achilles, and he is already done for this season. And Robert Saleh has already announced that Zach Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. A lot does change for this Jets offense, and let's talk just briefly about how this affects the entire team, because we have some players that we're excited about. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, both did well, but how will they continue to do well? Does Dalvin Cook's role change? What about the other receivers, the tight ends? I'll let you lead the way and give your first opinion on what happens now.
Yeah, well, my first opinion is that their league-leading primetime games are going to be a lot more boring now, and I can't believe we're going to have to watch Zach Wilson in like 7 primetime games this year.
Whew.
Whatever. Listen, when it comes to fantasy for these players, I've got some thoughts. And maybe listen, Garrett Wilson could prove me wrong, because somehow that catch tonight, we were talking about it, and listen, when Zach Wilson throws a football, the difficulty level goes up to make a catch, because it's not always as good as you'd want it to be. And so Garrett Wilson was drafted at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round in fantasy drafts usually this offseason. Yeah, you guys are going to take a hit on that one if you took Garrett Wilson. I took Garrett Wilson in one of my leagues because I was like, you know what? Let's take the shot on the ceiling. Pretty quickly tonight, I was like, wow, that ceiling is extremely capped. Now, listen, Garrett Wilson is incredible, but he is going to take a hit down, obviously, when you go from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson. That is a downgrade. But Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, they're getting the uptick in my book. They're actually getting an uptick in my book. I think I'll say, here's what I'll say. I'll say uptick or neutral. But I do think this team is now going to be relying on these running backs a bit more than they were when they had Aaron Rodgers. And I think we saw that on Monday night. It seemed like the Jets did not want Zach Wilson to be throwing the football. They were giving a lot of opportunities to Dalvin Cook, to Breece Hall, and they were making pretty good work of it. Dalvin Cook didn't have any explosive plays, but he looked good getting a few yards of carry at a time. And obviously we all saw Breece Hall explosive. I think it was like an 89-yard run. The stat line at one point after that run was like 2 rushes for 105 yards. Everyone was like, Breece Hall is pacing 54.5 yards a carry. He is on pace for 20,000 rushing yards this season, whatever it is. Listen, running backs get an uptick. Garrett Wilson gets a downtick. I don't know if any of us were really thinking Allen Lazard or Randall Cobb were going to be super relevant guys this year for this offense, but they get a downtick. Pass catchers, downtick. I think the running backs get an uptick, and obviously, if you drafted Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry. I think it's might be a tough year for you.
Especially as a QB1.
Waiting on yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is you were waiting on quarterback, and Rodgers such a value, dude. Such a value in the 12th round. Just going to grab him. Yeah. Well, Baker Mayfield's probably on your waiver wire, so you can go grab him if you want to.
Yeah.
Listen, that's my thoughts. Wes, what are you thinking?
So I actually am not that concerned about Garrett Wilson, believe it or not. So his ceiling does go down, but I am actually not worried. I'm not worried. And I think you can go ahead and make a trade for him. I would still field offers as well for Garrett Wilson, because there may be someone that is a huge Jets fan, or maybe they saw that amazing catch for that touchdown in the end zone. That was insane. So maybe there are some truthers, and if they're going to make you a good offer, I have no problem taking it. Okay, it's not like Jamar Chase. Okay, the panic around the Bengals. Calm down on that. We'll talk about them soon. But Garrett Wilson last year was awful with Zach Wilson. Okay, I pulled up some stats because I actually mentioned him last year and what he did with and without Zach Wilson. With Zach Wilson, 8.3 fantasy points. Without Zach Wilson, 19.4 fantasy points a game.
Yeah.
But here's what I saw from this game. I know the targets were low and the opportunities were pretty poor, and they were relying heavily, just as you said, on the ground game. But who is the wide receiver that's starting for them that played with Zach last year? It's Garrett Wilson. And Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb were brought in by Rodgers and for Rodgers. So anyone that was believing in Randall Cobb or Allen Lazard, don't. Let's move on from them. That's what I think, because the quarterback that was going to give them the opportunity is not going to be there anymore. But Garrett Wilson, I think, is going to be just fine. You're not going to have the 25-plus point games, probably. Certainly not the 30-point games that I thought he was going to get with Aaron Rodgers. But I'm actually not worried about Garrett Wilson. I think it's going to be just fine. And when you're not playing a defense like the Buffalo Bills, there's going to be more opportunities for Wilson to throw. And let's not forget that Aaron Rodgers is still in the building. So he's going to have... Wilson is going to have Rodgers as a coach. He's going to have him there for the whole season. It's going to help. There's been a lot from Hard Knocks and everyone else talking about the maturation of Zach Wilson. He's showing signs that he's going to learn and he's going to grow. I feel fine about Garrett Wilson. I'll still start him. You can't not start him for the value that you draft him at, but I'm okay. Let's see what happens next week, baby. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I think that's a fair actually outlook on it, because he scored 14.4 fantasy points against the Bills defense, and every single catch came from Zach Wilson. And yeah, I mean 14.4. No one's upset about that. I think that was around what he was probably projected this week. I think Garrett. I think you're onto something here, because I believe that Zach Wilson has improved. I think Rodgers has been a good mentor, maybe, for him. So I think that is a good... I think that's a good analysis, that you're always going to play him. And he got nearly 15 points with Zach Wilson. And I think that's more than he got all year last year with Zach Wilson. And so and that was against a tough Bills defense. So I think we're probably... I think you're right. I think you are safe to still go ahead and obviously roll them out, like you said. You have to, but I don't think you need to be. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think you need to be super scared. I think we're going to see what happens. And listen, go Jets, go! I guess I don't know. Jets. We're Dolphins fans, and obviously it's a rival. You got to feel for this fan base a little bit. They're just. I saw grown men on Twitter.
They're cursed.
Just posting videos, just pouring their hearts out. Why does it always happen to the Jets, man? It is such a Jets situation. But listen, maybe Rodgers comes back for one more. We'll see what happens. I think he's due to. So we'll see what happens. I know he's probably going to come back for a revenge tour.
Continue with the news, shall we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last little bit on the Rodgers situation. How funny is it, in an ironic, not ha-ha funny way, that the Packers won't get the compensation for the trade because it was a certain amount of snaps? How about that, huh?
So does it go to a second? It goes to go to a second round pick?
I don't remember exactly how the compensation factor was, but
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they're not going to get it because Rodgers won't play any more than 4 snaps. Boom!
Oh, that's all right. They're on the third Hall of Fame quarterback in a row, so it's all good.
Yeah, Jordan Love is going to be just fine. Okay.